we make sure to recording.
Actually,
Just so you know.
is the county,
Like to
State.
county
Hold on.
Oh,
But they alerted the county.
of
and county was
the Oceanside Sanitary District monthly board meeting to order. First item is, this session is being recorded. And first item is approval of the agenda.
motion to approve? Second.
Any discussion? If no discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. All right. Guests, we have none. Public comments, none. Board questions, comments, or discussion? Sir, anything in particular? All right, next is review of the minutes of November 21st, regular board meeting minutes. Motion to approve.
I'll move to approve.
Second, John,
That was Jerry.
discussion.
There was just one place where Dan slipped and said I instead of mellow. This is just because Simeon's not here to say it.
I was just gonna say.
That's
You guys are really tough on people when they're not here. They defend themselves.
Do you need a red pen?
I didn't know. Oh, I know. It's on the top of, is this page 2? So, page 4, top of page 4. Right after it says Mellow states that the office HVAC control system is failing. I spoke to Dan at Ocean.
Motion to approve with note of corrections?
From them,
Okay, so that should read,
just Mellow or he. Third person instead of first person.
all right. All in favor of accepting the minutes with the one change to page 4, say aye.
Right.
Aye.
And the next item is the November 30th, 2024 financial statements for review of all funds. Motion to approve.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion.
Would this be the appropriate time to ask whether the check that was good came in from the guy that was shining us off?
Yeah, it has.
Some of them did, and I know that there was 3. The
The
large one is still up.
That's it, that one east, west. Yeah, that one west.
The Capes.
That's the Capes.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
And then on that, I know this is off the financials, sorry, but if you'll remind me, if I can get that address.
Okay.
Some other issues came up at that build site, and I'm gonna have to address those anyway.
Okay.
So I'll be happy to.
One of the council.
Okay.
I was wondering about the new connections for November. There's 2 addresses on Breezy Way. Are there 4 units there?
I think they're building 3, I think.
Is it 3?
3.
It's 3? Okay, so did they already get the other or because they're going simultaneously,
I know where
They have not paid the 3rd one yet, just the 2.
but we're aware of it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's all I had.
All right. All in favor of accepting the financial statements as written, say aye.
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 Board audit accounts payable for general review.
Anything that you want to call to our attention, Dan?
No, I don't have anything. Okay, unless you have any questions on something I'm not sure about.
So just, and I think I know the answer, but 19,200, that's our payment for the road maintenance to the folks that own the property?
Yes,
Okay. And that's, and,
that's it.
all right,
It's just a different owner.
yeah. Any comments or questions or? So, okay, let me just, I know we've had some questions that involve the Netarts Water District. 19198 says Happy Camp water rates, 460.
It's all one check, but they're all broken up.
So that's covers,
Those are quarterly. I think they still,
We pay
We
monthly,
pay
but it's for each one of our locations. It's one check that went.
so that's for all of them. It's not, even though it says Happy Camp here, it's everything.
I only have like this much room to put,
Okay,
so it doesn't show all of the writing.
all right,
yeah, so all the water connections are gathered into one.
okay, okay. Any questions? If none, we'll go ahead and proceed with the district report.
I'm sure that you've all read it and it looks pretty bad for the information that we contained. So, you guys all know the top. I mean, it's our discharge for the month. Again, there's been no update from the hotel projects. Side, nothing.
This is Jim. When you say it's first under the Oceanside Hotel project, second line says, it does appear. What is
It
that?
does appear that the flow increases from the information we got will increase to the Oceanside pump station upon completion. So currently there's no, but from the flow data, and the flow data that we received was from the Oceanside Hotel, which is the old house on, that's the only one we received for fixtures, but nothing concrete yet, just what they had been planning. So my understanding that maybe some of it has changed on the room amounts or possible restaurant on site, but we don't have anything on the restaurant yet. But any changes will affect the flow to the main Oceanside pump station.
They have until February to respond to the notice that their original application was not deemed complete. And they were advised what needed to be done. And Sarah, as recently as last week, had heard nothing more from them. So she's completely in the dark about whether they intend to come back and complete it, or like the fusion project out of the cabins, they just let it drop. They're apparently going to start over.
I did put their engineer, not their architect, but their engineer in touch with Denny, our engineer at West Tech. And he sent them a response to the first flow data asking for more. He's got no response, none. So it's just, the file's on the side of his desk. He's not gonna work on it and spend hours.
Well, but it's a little confusing. When it says it does appear, does that mean from West Tech? Does it?
It does appear from West Tech, from the fixtures that they did supply to us already, that the
Right.
flows will increase.
So you might want to include that in there. It's just super vague.
Yeah, it's conversational because it's in your head from talking to West Tech, but
I'm just thinking
I
if
agree.
somebody else was reading it,
it does appear
it didn't know.
through West Tech that it will.
Okay, yes. I could change that for next meeting.
I mean, I know that it goes a lot right along with that the possible as in question mark, but anyway.
Okay.
So Jerry, your best guess on what you know and what Sarah has provided in the way of information, does it appear that they may come up with something by February, or will it probably go away at least temporarily and they'll start again?
They have provided no direct information to make a guess. My guess, based on the little I know, is that they jettisoned their architects midstream. Both projects did.
Really?
And with regard to the one down at the cabins, I think that resulted in enough confusion that they missed their deadline to try to tell the design. They didn't have the design information needed to give the county what they needed to complete their application. I suspect something similar is happening up there, just based on the fact that they have the same architect. The same architect basically either was fired or jumped ship. Told me personally, didn't think they really knew what they were doing. And so I think I interpret the lack of communication to indicate a lack of organization. And organization is going to be what it takes for them to fix their application.
Spoken to Denny Pastega and Dusty a couple of times. We use the old hotel as a training ground. And I don't think anything's going to even come to light until March or April. So that would then put them into the position of having to start over. But the property is not closed. Denny still owns it and nothing is transpired.
Oh, that's a major piece of information.
We knew the sale was conditioned on them getting approvals from the county. We've known that all along. So I was watching the county to see if they were going to give them the approvals. Otherwise, the sale wasn't going to go through.
Oh,
So it's still in limbo but Dusty thinks it'll go one way or the other in March or April.
well, I hate to repeat hearsay, but I qualifying this by that the same company that owns Terrymore supposedly owns the cabins. That's correct. Okay.
Huge.
And it's been my understanding from a couple of people that I've talked to that they are in the process of getting ready to sell the Terrymore.
I believe that's correct.
Sell what? Excuse me?
The Terrymore Hotel. So I just,
That could be a capital infusion for doing something over at the cabins.
who knows? Anyway,
All right.
All right, so next under what, the Netarts Water District, they started the change for charging us for water. There's been no response, nothing back from them either. I did tell the office manager that I was suggesting on my board of directors that we put together an IGA. When she contacted me back about it, this has been several weeks ago now, or a few weeks ago now. Didn't sound like their board of directors was really wanting to go through an intergovernmental agreement. And explain we have to now because we have to know your rates. And it has to do with our budgeting. And her only response was that she doubted $84 was going to hurt our budget And I said, well, it doesn't work that way. I don't know what your labor charges are. You don't even know what your labor charges are, or what condition, you know, how we proceed using water for our maintenance out in Netarts. Since you take it to a board and it's not, I haven't got any response.
Should we,
Okay, so maybe let me add a little bit. The last 2 months, I don't believe it's even been on the agenda to discuss their situation regarding the sanitary district. I went over there on the night of their November board meeting before it started. I think it starts 5:15 or something, and I was there at 5 o'clock. I talked very briefly in the other room from the conference room and the other board members with their chair, who's Bruce Vincent. I don't know the gentleman, but I met him. I don't know if you know him or not. And we agreed that he or myself and Dan and he, or whoever he desires to attend, be it himself and somebody else, sit down sometime after the first of the year and discuss the matter. And that basically take the office manager out of talking to Dan. And she was just as happy with that. She was standing there and she was very happy that, oh, okay, board members are going to discuss it between them and among them. So that's where we're at. He, interestingly enough, I said, well, can I have your phone number? He says, well, I'm a little concerned that everything be in writing. I'm thinking, well, we're just talking. I didn't say it, but we're really just talking about setting up a meeting to get together. It's not like we would necessarily discuss substantive matters on the telephone, but he did give me his personal email address. And after the first of the year, I will email him back and say, hey, when are we going to get together? And who's going to get together?
And just, you know, that is consistent with what we decided last month.
Yeah.
We would ask them for a meeting. So,
Yeah.
you know, not just
Yeah.
talking to their office manager again, but getting at the board. So good. I'm glad you did that.
So,
Get it cleared up or get it in writing, one or the
yeah.
other.
So and I didn't go into their meeting room or anything like that. It was just a brief conversation before their meeting started. And then I left.
So on the pump stations, I did finally, after CCing 2 emails and CCing everybody I could think of, and including digging out my old Rolodex with Cummins contacts, I finally got a response. The ship date is January 6th for Ocean Highlands generator.
nice.
So it took over a week to get a response. Once I get the right person in the email chain, they immediately within 15 minutes responded, said, answer Dan what he wants. Give him a date. So anyway, that's our update on that.
Good job.
I still have on here about the clearing down here. I left it on there. Basically, what does the board want to do with that? So John suggested I just leave it on here until the board makes a decision. So we at least reminded that we still have that pending. I did get 2
Just,
calls.
just information. I've reached out to Kevin Hill with ODF and Shannon Miller, the deputy state fire marshal, and they have not reached back out. So I will check back with them.
Remind me, do we have anything writing from the Terrace people, or was it just an oral communication?
I don't think we have anything in writing that pertains to clearing that easement.
Okay.
Some individual properties, yes, for cutting down individual trees. but-
No, I'm talking about the
No,
easement.
no,
Okay,
no.
then we don't have anything in writing hanging pending action, so I'm not worried about us needing to take any further action now, but something comes in writing, we're gonna need to make sure our position is clear, even if we're still investigating. That's fine.
Should I remove this, or do you want it left on there till we get certainty what we're,
I don't know.
I think you're the only one that's actually communicated with it.
I think I received a phone call, and I don't know whether it was Sue or Cynthia, the head of the association or not. And I don't remember right now who it was.
I think we're still engaged in a course of conduct in response to the oral. I don't think we have to do anything to respond to that. It's not in writing and it's kind of mushy, but as a way of keeping it coming up for status reports, I don't mind it being on the agenda,
Yeah.
John.
No, that's fine.
I can leave it on there, that's all the time. Okay. Next page, the K1 pump station pump. My understanding is the repair was supposed to be completed this week. And we should have it back any day, but it's already Thursday and I haven't heard back if it is completed yet. So I know Brian's contacted one of his contacts, Saxon at Xylem, and I've contacted Dave, the other one, and they're supposed to get us an update. So any day. I have no idea where they're actually at, confirmed that it's completed. So the main pumps, the main pump station control panel, we had a failure. We have a temporary, it was right after Thanksgiving that it failed. We were running a week and a half on a redundant high wet well probes. No, nothing PLC controlled, nothing. It was just manual. And the problem with doing that is they're short pump cycles. That means your pump station is constantly on and off, on and off, on and off, which is not good for the pumps. I did contact Xylem. They came out, they were getting me prices together to put a new control unit in. It became complicated because the control panels that we have are obsolete. They've been obsolete for almost 10 years, and they went obsolete 2 years after they were built and put in. So there are no spare parts for it. So they come and they patched in a duplex controller, which means just for 2 pumps, not for 4, but it will run all 4. We just can't see it. We had barely any SCADA working. We had no idea if there was a overflow alarm, a power outage, nothing. The only thing we could see on there was the pump on, and we could see the level, whether it dropped or not, so we knew the pumps were running. Brian and I sat in, I don't know, 2.5 hour Teams meeting, like a Zoom meeting with 4 representatives of Xylem and also the automation group TAG, who actually built the panels. They're our SCADA company. They're the one that takes care of all of our telemetry SCADA. I complained about the 4 different control panels. We just put 2 new control panels in. Remember, these pump stations are on what's called proprietary controls, which is built by the pump manufacturer, which kind of keeps you with the pump manufacturer. Every time they tell us that this is the new control panel for the future, in a couple of years are outdated. The ones we just did at Oceanside and the Netarts pump station control panel, those are already now obsolete, and they've only been in for 3 years. Every time Xylem, which is a big company, multinational company, every time they buy up another company, they change something. So I have a complaint about that to them. They said, well, don't worry, it's obsolete, but we have 5,000 extra units. And if you have any failures, we can bring you out and put one in. That still means you have a finite amount of parts and a finite date that they're going to probably run out. And Gary Jenks, who owns the automation group, TAG, as we refer to him, he asked what was wrong, and we told him that the control panels are in a loop and they won't work. He said, well, all you got to do is go in and just so you know, the automation group built these control panels for Xylem when we did this. He said, you just got to go in there and unplug these 2 serial ports and plug them back in a certain order and they'll work. The engineer, the pump panel engineer for Xylem said it won't work that way. They're dead. They won't work. They contacted their engineer, their programming engineer back east. Come to find out today, Gary sent one of his people up, Brian and the guys, they went down to, then we lost the effluent pump station panel right after that this week. That's 2 of those AP panels we lost in the side of a couple of weeks. They went down there, unplugged like Gary said, or replugged everything back in. It all came back on. The pump station's back running as it's designed. SCADA came back on. We have full control of the pump station again. I said, go down and see if you can do that at the main pump station. They went down there. Bryce had to do some wiring for tag. It's back up and operational. So Simon was wrong on their own control panel. If it hadn't been for the automation group who actually built the panel and did the R&D, if it wasn't for that, we would be looking at emergency. I mean, just the parts to replace that controller is $30,000. That doesn't include installation or getting the telemetry to talk to the new equipment. So where we're at right now is it's up and running. I contacted Xylem and I told them, you can come pull your temporary controller out, and then I will meet with the board tonight. And I mean, the panels are still obsolete. We still can't get parts for them. So if they legitimately die, we're back in the same boat. But right now we have time to plan to change them and not do this under an emergency and try to throw it all together. So that's the good news. We're no longer under the emergency. I was going to have to report to the board tonight and give you some expensive numbers just to fix the main pump station. The main pump station, as you know, is a critical pump station for the district. It pumps every bit of water up to this plant, every bit of it. It also is right across from the beach. There is no lines to backfeed. It will come out of a manhole on the highway and it would discharge across the beach if it fails. Because we've been running blind.
Which one you talking about?
At the bottom of the hill. The big one at the bottom of the hill, the main pump station.
Same across from Simmons.
Right at Simmons. Okay, so we've been on there, checking that pump station every day, verifying it's working, because we've been operating blind on it. At night, we won't know unless you're looking at the SCADA to see what the depth of the wet well is, if it's even pumping. So it's been critical for the last 3 weeks. Well, now, as of an hour or so ago, Tag got the control panel back up, and now we have our telemetry SCADA back. So now we'll get alarmed if there's a pump failure or something, we can now respond.
I know it's hard to explain all this, you know. Is there some reason that they all failed at the same scenario, or?
The only thing that we have in common with them are power failures. So when the one at the main pump station quit working and got caught into this loop and wouldn't work, that was right after the generator was in the process of its every Monday 1 hour test run where it transfers power. The problem with the main pump station was we've been trying for over a month. It's got its battery backup unit so that it keeps the PLCs alive, you know, while it does the power transfer. It's been out and we've been trying to get a replacement. The replacement they sent us didn't match our control panel, so we couldn't install it. So we're supposed to be getting a new one now that actually matches that control panel. We don't have possession of it yet. We're still waiting for a delivery date. They're assuring us it's coming, but they have no delivery date. But that really had nothing to do with it. Gary explained that's not how that panel is set up. That's not how that panel works. This is the builder of the panel, okay? And even though it had a power outage, he says computers get unplugged accidentally all the time. That shouldn't hurt that and not let it reboot up. It just got caught in this loop and you have to completely disconnect and then you have to reconnect it back up in order, in a sequence, which they walked through and approved that he was correct. So
Just to interrupt, did you take notes so that you can do it yourself if it happens again?
oh yeah.
Okay. Right,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
wanted to get that.
Which,
Clear.
which that's what Bryce showed them how to do it. Okay, because they're in Eugene. So it'd still take them 3.5 hours.
That's why I asked.
Yeah,
Is it safe?
yeah, it's safe. Yeah, yeah. This is basically a computer glitch is what it is. But because you can't just order a new laptop and stick in there because they're obsolete. They've gone away from that. So where I'm going with this is, and I've talked to our engineers at West Tech. This is the problem when you stay with proprietary controls, which means you're using the control from the company that builds the control panel. They have several customers that have gotten away from proprietary controls from any company for this exact reason. The automation group who built our panels, they are a panel shop. That's what they do. And they would design a controller that would work with their SCADA. So when it shows up, and I don't know, remember if John remembers the Netarts pump station, we had a hard time, the automation group had a hard time getting our SCADA to talk and get information from that new controller that we put in. It was supposed to be a plug and play, everything, it lands the same. That was from the techs on Xylem side. On the SCADA side, which we just learned, it doesn't work that way because some of the components you change. So, and you run and there's technical terms, the mod bus and things like that. They can't speak. You have to program those in. Well, Xylem's putting out these panels so quickly that the addresses for the computer haven't even caught up for all of what you need to put into the computer to talk. So it can get information when the pump runs, gets information from when the pump faults, get you all that information. And so they're behind. So now Tank can't program it, but just limited. So before I come to the board and say, we're going to replace the control panel, which we're going to have to do. And when I say replace the control panel, it's the internals. It's not the actual box itself per se. We may have to, and I'm meeting with the engineers now about this and we're discussing getting away from proprietary. And Xylem is doing all they can right now, kissing up to us and hoping that we don't go away from proprietary, which basically takes away sales from them. Mm-hmm. But we can't continue down this road, especially financially, having to change to a different controller every few years when, the main corporation Switzerland decides to come up with something new.
Design and tech support giving us incorrect information about these proprietary.
So they're selling this product, which I made up mad when I said this. You're selling this product that you don't even know how it works. So how can you pass this on to our other tech?
Yeah, they're buying them, putting companies out of business, and there's no ongoing training for those because it's a dead.
And I don't even know where they build them anymore. I don't know where Xylem builds. They took away the business from the automation group. So the automation group is capable of not only designing it, setting up the programs, all the protocols, they can also make it work with the SCADA system that they design as well. The graphics, everything.
So do you have an idea, just vaguely in mind, about how to structure a transition or the research necessary to make us feel like, yeah, that's the direction we should go?
That just came about yesterday.
Oh, I know.
I'm working on it. So yes, I'm working with the engineer. I'll work with the owner, Gary Jenkett Tag, who's already assured me that he can come in. He can do the R&D at his panel shop in Eugene. Right now, I don't know where these panels are being built, but it's taken too long to get them. I mean, this other panel has been months out. We still haven't received it, and the date keeps pushing. Mm-hmm. So the automation group uses what's called off-the-shelf parts. Okay, they're also a large warehouse of parts. So whatever components they build their panels with, they have the spares in their shop. Time is of essence for us. It's the most important thing is time response because we're critical. I mean, as you all know, we don't need another spill. Okay, so the direction I'm looking at right now, and the engineers are in concurrence because you guys are going to authorize for them to move forward on the Avalon pump station. We need to make a decision. Yes, let's move forward with Avalon. But when it gets to the control panels, West Tech is now going to be looking into non-proprietary.
Is it possible for the engineers, I'm sure the engineers have other customers who have gone this non-proprietary route, but you didn't really say what their experience has been with that.
City of Salem no longer uses any proprietary pump controller from any manufacturer.
Can you talk with their administrator to get a person to person?
West Tech is their engineer, for designing pumps.
I know, but I mean, just like,
Yeah.
two people being on
So
the receiving end of these.
I am getting a list from the automation group. Basically, I'm getting references.
Good, that's
I'm
probably.
getting references from them for the work they've done so I can contact them. And I'm also getting references to contact from West Tech, which ones that they have switched over. Just so you know, right now, this all developed yesterday, but right now, West Tech is encouraging the district to go non-proprietary.
That's a lot of progress in a very short time in an emergency situation, Dan. I'm impressed. I mean, that you are pulling all this together so fast. I just want to say that. I mean, you've got answers to the questions.
Right. Well, it's been dragging out with item for 3 weeks since that pump station went down. And to get on, once we got the meeting set up, that took a few days. Once we got the meeting set up, and I expressed in that meeting how dissatisfied I was with how Xylem is handling their customers on these controllers. I noticed that other ones from back east from Xylem started dropping off the call. So, but we've had our backs against the wall on the main pump station for 3 weeks now. Then to have Gary come onto the call, 15 minutes into the call, says, "Oh yeah, we can fix that. We just got to do this and this, and it'll kill the loop and it'll boot right back up and the station will work." I could have used him right after Thanksgiving up here,
Mhm.
and we wouldn't have gone through all this. So this, like I said, just all came together yesterday, and all of us operators understand now what happened. Now that we finally found out what happened and how it's fixable. This we had the storm the other day, and we had several. You guys were out of power, I'm sure, at your houses.
Mhm.
Well, we were out of power in and out several times. That's when the effluent pump station went out as well. So I'm thinking that's something to do with the power off, power on, power off. If the pumps are pumping at the time that you lose the power, because it takes like 15 seconds for the generator to start, ramp up to make the 60 hertz so it can switch. That's the amount of time. If those pumps were running and that panel was being used, it was like you were doing something on your computer and all of a sudden it just went dead on you.
That makes sense.
It can corrupt it.
And that was a great question.
Yeah.
It's
So
power failure stuff sounds to me like.
where we're at with that is I'm working on moving away from proprietary controls and trying to get it more local. There's another plus to the automation group. They're also licensed electricians. So I don't know if you remember when we installed the panel down there under Xylem, they brought in their electrical contractor who's not a panel. I mean, it's a great electrical firm for construction, but the automation group built the panels, designs and builds the panels, and they're also licensed, so they install them. And then they bring in Flight or Xylem later when they do the startup so that they can get the pumps to work with the new controller. The difference is it's all pre-tested at their panel shop before it even shows up. We spent, automation group had a guy 18 hours straight down to Netarts pump station before he got all of our telemetry working.
What?
Now, which one was that?
The Netarts pump station.
No, I mean, which outfit?
The automation group who has done our telemetry SCADA for,
18 hours?
they had a guy down there because it didn't cross over and the new controller from Xylem couldn't communicate with our SCADA system. It wasn't a simple plug and play like Xylem told us it was going to be. It was difficult. And Gary wanted to express that clients get mad at him because they're spending 2 or 3 days to rehook something back up. that Xylem told them was just a plug and play unit. So of course, he wants that up front, that I'm not gonna do these unless I'm part of the design or, at least in the, research part of it to set it up. But he wants the panels at his shop, which I just ordered today, well, yesterday, that our new control panels, Ocean Highlands, be sent to the automation group, who we pay to come up here anyway, to take it to their panel shop and get SCADA and get everything working on that control panel, because they can test them there in-house. And then it'll be set up when it's ready to come up here and be hardwired in.
Can I step back just a little bit, take this opportunity to, I'm hearing some things like West Tech was aware that there's a trend of problems in this area and that some of its clients are moving away from it. But this is the first we've heard of it. Do we think that West Tech is someone that should have maybe as part of our longstanding and much business, this is the kind of thing they would have mentioned to us?
This is something,
a trend, or is there another source for that kind of information?
this is something recent with West Tech. Right now, panels aren't being delivered on other projects.
But Salem's gone completely non-proprietary. West Tech knew that. How long did that take? A couple of years, probably.
Well, city of Salem put in their own design and their own control section of their city. We don't have that.
Okay. Well, before you go into the micro, I want to stay on the macro, which is, this sounds like an important trend that it's really good that we've gotten a hold of. And I'm concerned we haven't gotten a hold of it sooner because some other people have. And if it's not the kind of thing we would expect West Tech to be kind of giving us a heads up about, is there another source of this kind of information about any other systems that we're operating where there's a trend away from what we're doing?
Well, unfortunately, no, not unless you have the problem. Are you going to call your engineer and pay them to give you information or, projects?
What about peer groups, associations, where the kind of thing would happen enough that it would get brought to the attention of a program committee or just industry newsletter? Do you see, is that?
No, I understand. I don't know of anything like that really exists. I'm telling you that from West Tech in the last few months, it's starting to exist. It's starting to come to light because of these problems. So we're not the only ones suffering from it, but now West Tech is doing their research and they're finding out even cities that they don't work for.
Okay.
So they're still gathering information of how long probably this problem has existed, because they don't want to design stuff either that their customers have a problem with.
Okay. Well, I'll end this. If you become aware of some kind of hookup into industry associations, or it was a matter of sending you to a meeting or a conference so that you could get access to this kind of information, I think it would be money well spent if we avoided even half of what we're going through on this. And also, you might want to encourage West Tech to keep their ear open for any other kind of similar, comparable, trendy things with their customers, because your board is really interested in hearing about them and ready to be proactive in considering them rather than reacting after everybody else is figuring out a solution.
Yeah.
What is that?
I completely agree with you, Jerry, because I'd rather head it off before and plan around it.
That's all. I'm not criticizing anybody.
No, so I have been looking, and I got an AWWA, American Water Works Association, these conferences, and I'm going through now what are coming up and what are the topics that are in there. And I might even send an email to AWWA to see if this can be a topic that they can address at a short scope or a conference. Because I think it's information, because a lot of your smaller places, smaller than ours, will get caught blindsided by this, and they don't have the working capital. They don't have $500,000 laying in the bank to buy their way out of this.
Mhm.
And so Danny at West Tech agrees with me. We need to get this information out. It's not out enough. Nobody finds out about it till it happens to them. And then, of course, when West Tech gets called, it's too late. It's already happened. So, and it's happening now. Now, one thing everybody agrees with, and I mean everybody in the industry that uses this equipment, there's no replacement for a flight pump. I mean, they're the most robust. I mean, we're still running pumps from the 90s, early 90s at our pump stations. That's how good their pumps are. Their control system is left to be desired. And when we built this, project in this treatment plant, we got our equipment from Sanitaire, which is our SBR. We got our pumps from Flight, which is Xylem. And a lot of our lab equipment and stuff. Xylem has bought it all up. Wetico is a complete separate company. When we put it in, Xylem owns that now. So basically what we do is we make one phone call and either they send out a Wetico tech, which they just did, or they'll send out a Sanitaire tech, but it's still under one umbrella. And I'm looking at even trying to break that a little bit when our controller for our treatment plant needs to be upgraded. I have the automation group look at it, or somebody like the automation group and reprogram it so it's not all proprietary. Right now, we're at the mercy of the 3 hour going back east. And here we have a problem, and it's at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They're already closed back east. So now we're what? We're 12 hours away or better before we can get a hold of anybody to get our stuff back up. So it's a growing problem. And John and I talked about it a little bit. Something more local would help us out greatly. So,
Such as the outfit in Eugene.
mhm.
I mean, it's apparently, you said they have quite a broad clientele that goes all over the West Coast, I
Yeah.
guess.
So this, yes, they do. This will take some research a little bit because remember the automation group, then you don't want to go from one proprietary to another and then the automation group sells to somebody else and then we no longer have that. So I've always been firm about keeping my supplier contractors each in their own lane so that I'm not reliant on just one. And I thought we did this with the design of the plant, only the one bought everything. So now you're under their umbrella for all of it. So I don't think if we go non-proprietary controllers, I don't think it'll ruin our relationship with Xylem, considering that they still take care of our UV disinfection. They still take care of a lot of components here.
It might improve it. They know we're willing to look other places.
Yeah, and we won't be the first one that have gone non-proprietary. So the city of Salem did it years ago, I guess, because they have their own design team. But a lot of the smaller ones are going that way. Xylem Flight they do make pumps now that don't require a control panel. Only those are for small pump stations. They're not for something that has to have two 185 horsepower pumps to pump. They don't make those kind of concerted pumps for that. So they are on the cutting edge of a lot of development that can save you money because you can use one pump for several different pump stations. But there are some that you can't. Some of the pumps are just too big for that.
Okay. So it sounds like, I'm circling back to you talking with Salem to see what they're doing that we're not, or anything they've got we can borrow.
Well, I want to get a hold of somebody that's made the change that's more comparable to us and see how they like what they've done.
Salem's bigger. I mean,
Salem's pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty big. And so I don't think we'll get, because I guess they've never used any other manufacturer's controllers. They have their own engineer, their own department for that. So I'd like to find somebody that's made the switch and I want to see how they like it.
or the Salem will license their design group list.
Yeah, so.
Right.
Go ahead.
John.
Last year's annual SDAO conference, there were breakout sessions. One was the water group.
Mhm.
And are those people that were leading that group the same ones that are part of the water association that you're talking about, or is that different? It seemed like they were advocates.
Well, AWWA has the advocacy, support like that, but that's not really, they're not really talking about SDO what we're talking about right now.
Well, I understand that, but are those some of the same people that could work at organizing a group of folks like yourself to look at these problems and discuss them?
So
You were kind of going that direction as far as an advocacy group
so
or the kind of problems we have.
there's a branch of the AWWA, which is called the PNCWA. Remember the ones that gave us the plaque?
Yeah,
They're more of all these different cities that work the water and wastewater plants. So that's what it's made of. And I think there is where we can get the information and probably get the training or get the information. They'll be better at gathering it up.
Yeah, they're already networking.
They're already networked.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's, I'm gonna call them downstate.
I'm all in favor of that.
Okay.
yeah.
Sorry.
So we're not under an emergency to fix these control panels right now, but I want the board to understand they are obsolete. There are no spares for them. So we're gonna have to budget. We're gonna have to look at changing the control panels. I need a little more time to figure out if we stay proprietary with controllers from Flight. You know, I'm working, can we stay with those current controllers, but yet go through the automation group, who will also be our installer, so that the panels work once they get here. So there's two options. I'm talking Motor West Tech now. Because if you go non-proprietary, you're at that mercy as well. That if that company folds or gets bought out, you're right back into the same problem. So I don't want to get in a rush. I want to try to do this right. So we still may wind up that way, but I think that if we can get a panel, we can have our panels built and at the automation group where they are already take care of all of our programming for our SCADA and telemetry. I think we have fixed that problem. So I will work on that. Hopefully I'll have more information in a direction that I think we should go by next month.
So West Tech is an engineering firm.
Mhm.
Do they have a electrical guy, a tech guy that they work with, or is it
They,
in-house?
not in-house as far as electrical goes per se. They do design a lot of wastewater treatment plants and
Right.
wastewater pump stations, water pump stations. So they have different subs that they use for different parts of it.
I just, you know, I don't know if you remember, but I had words with, from the West Tech folks years and years ago.
John, I remember. Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, they need to take our best interest to heart
Yes,
and to use them as our information source, right?
yes.
So just
Yeah.
saying,
So
I don't want to leave, I don't want them to get off the hook on this issue with panels. I mean, we've had so many failures on these panels. And I've asked this question years ago about, like, is it corrosion? Is it what, you know, I don't know what it is. All I know is that, I mean, this could be a situation where we're gonna have to increase rates,
yes,
you know?
because your maintenance
And so
increases.
I'm saying that let's
In
let
the
them
last-
know how important it is that all the money that we've spent, the two small community has spent a lot of money with them.
Mhm.
Just saying.
So technology has changed so rapidly the last 10 years. The biggest maintenance item that we suffer from, and I've reported this before, is PLC changes, computer changes. So the more automated you get, the more at mercy you are of your technology. You know, you've seen
No, I
businesses shut
understand, I
down because
understand.
the internet dies.
Yeah, no, I share the sense that whenever we have a problem, the choke point for all the information and the fixes is West Tech.
Mhm.
And it's the first place you call. You very much rely on their information. They never really have any source that checks what they're telling us. We just trust them, but and I have a little bit of discomfort that we're as much a proprietary relationship with them and their advice as we might be with some of our manufacturers.
Well, let me give you,
I have no criticisms of it. I'm just saying,
no,
I have the same discomfort.
I disagree with your conclusion that we rely totally on West Tech. West Tech isn't the only engineering firm that we've ever used. We've
The
used
only one I ever
Brown
hear you cite, that's the only one I ever, it's the first.
Well, it's because most of all of our design, West Tech has all the history. But Tetra Tech is the one that designed this treatment, plant, not West Tech.
Never heard them, never heard you mention them, never heard you talk to them.
So Tetra Tech was the design engineer that West Tech managed the project. Brown and Caldwell designed the outfall, not West Tech. That's not what West Tech, they don't do those. So West Tech is basically our project managers, is what we use a lot of.
Okay,
Okay, so that's why you hear me, because West Tech is the one that, Landis Consulting is the one that did all the electrical up here. Okay, all that's managed. We hired, West Tech was the manager of all these different engineering firms.
okay, that's good information. I just wanted
Yeah.
to know that I share that
Yeah,
same
because
nickel.
we always
Yeah.
hear West
Yeah.
Tech,
Yeah.
but we don't.
Well, we can't use West Tech for every design or everything here because
But it feels to us like we do. So you're letting us know we don't, because nobody else has ever been brought in on any of these issues we faced in the last 3 years.
well, I'm sorry, it's
Yeah.
something I've done over the last 26, 7 years. So I do know of all the other engineering firms that I've dealt with West Tech. I had my problems with West Tech on this too. I mean, there was some stuff that we didn't agree on. And I sent John Packard, fired him from the job while we were building this.
No,
Yeah. So as long as they perform and do and produce what this district needs, I'm fine with that. If they go out of line, it's not best for the district and maybe it's something that they prefer, then I put a stop to it. So we're not married to West Tech. West Tech is our historical manager, some of our pump station design. West Tech will also design our Avalon pump station, unless you guys say no. But we've had really good luck with them. It's like any general contractor, they're responsible for the subs, but they're the ones that get blamed even if their subs mess up. Just like Emery and Sons, I had a conflict with one of their subs building this very office. And I didn't go to Emery and Sons, I went to West Tech, made them go to Emery and Sons and express that.
Okay, so I didn't mean to trigger a whole bunch of war stories. I just wanted it circles back to my concern that if West Tech knew that this was a trend, it's the kind of trend we would have wanted them to tell us about. And you said it's recent, so I accept that.
So
It fits with what you're saying.
Yeah, like the automation group, I'm not going through West Tech for the automation group.
Mhm.
There's no reason to pay them on something I can manage. Okay, so, but
And
West Tech
you're the
is the
lead, right?
district's.
You're at the meetings that he's setting up.
recently, yes.
Okay, so you're kind of parallel institutional memory on this as we go forward, because this is long-term stuff.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
That's
So,
okay.
yeah, he's in all those meetings. He needs to learn. So anyway, back to this. These controllers are still obsolete. We have 4 of them. The main pump station, the effluent pump station, and both capes. So now we know if this particular thing happens, we can get them restarted. But we're definitely gonna have to look in budget. I think that's part of what your workshop you wanna do. We need to discuss that because now in the facility plan, this is now moved up in more of a priority.
Right.
Okay, not an emergency where we gotta, replace it right now, but it's moved up. I've also learned how I'm gonna approach this now, and it's not strictly trust Xylem to provide their controllers and them work. It's not looking that way. So it's nothing, no decision for the board tonight. Probably will be, sometime next month. But what I want to do is put together a direction that I think we need to do. And it probably should also be a subject in a workshop that we need to have. Because this is a lot to try to throw out at you all at once in one evening at a board meeting, especially since it just developed. Okay. So the next page, the main pump station radiator, generator radiator is showing signs of corrosion. We all know how important the main pump station is. We're going to have Cummins come in, load bank test the generator, do a service on it and inspect that radiator. It's not as simple as just when I tell you this, That's a large generator. I don't know if any of you other than John have been there. But that's a 12-cylinder generator, and it has 4 radiators in it. There's 4 sections. 2 of them are for coolant, 2 of them are for air from the turbochargers. You lose any one of those, it will shut that thing down completely. It won't even start. And no, you can't get a portable generator and back in there and start it back up. That generator down there is almost 1 meg. It's huge. The radiator has to be inspected because to replace that radiator is $38,000. Want the board aware of that. That could happen, but we need to have that inspected before we just order a radiator and change it out. May not be in that bad a shape, but from what we can see on our side, it shows those signs of corrosion. And if any of those radiators blow a hole in them, the generator will shut down and we won't be able to start it. It'll lock it out. It's a safety feature on it. So we're working on that one. I'm hoping it doesn't need a radiator. But if not, we'll have to come back and we'll have to readdress that.
When I was down there and Brian was down there, the impression that I got was it's probably about, 5 foot wide, 5 to 6 feet wide. And if you took half that wall from floor to ceiling, that's the radiator. And that's about 6 feet wide. So it's a big dude. It's not,
Well, you can't fit it through the door and it takes a crane to move it. And we're talking an all-day job just to replace it.
so hopefully it won't need replacement.
Yeah, but we'll go ahead and run those tests. The generator needs service anyway. It looks like starting of an oil leak in the front of the motor. So we'll have them inspect and give us a report on the condition of the generator. The Netarts pump station door replacement, I got the update. The doors will ship from the manufacturer for Vortex door tomorrow. So that's about a 2-week. We weren't expecting them to ship till the first week or second week of January, but they confirmed that they'll ship tomorrow.
What about installation then? How long will that take?
They need to get them, inspect them, verify that they're the right size and all that. And then once they do that, they'll call me and then we'll set up a time for installation. You already are aware of the treatment plant, electrical. I'm waiting for better weather to get the electrician back over here. Attached, you'll find the proposal from West Tech to start the pre-design work for the Avalon pump station. And the approach on this one that we're taking is not to exceed. We have they're hoping we don't have to do wetlands, but they have to start that first to see what the county's going to require and stuff like that for it. So this is not abnormal how you start some of these projects. It's within not to exceed amount.
Then you need an approval for this particular,
Yes.
and make a motion to approve the West Tech.
Second,
Where is the not to exceed? I'm looking for it.
I'll second discussion.
Okay, thanks. Sorry. I didn't want to second until I knew the number.
It's right here.
Okay. I have no basis to evaluate the quality of that number. I'll rely on you, Dan, if you're satisfied with it.
Yes, I was, because it's probably going to be twice that before as we get into it further. But this is
The logical.
about the amount, right around 200,000 to get started, to get the information. So, and this will take care of going through DEQ and stuff like that.
Do we know who or what the process is as far as determining whether there's a wetland concern?
I can answer that, but go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jim.
They hired somebody. County does.
Okay,
And they come in and they go,
So when I talk to the county about what it is, generally they go look to see what kind of vegetation is growing. And is it a wetland at only certain parts of the year? Is it that way year round? So there's a couple of different evaluations they have to make.
certain plants that grow.
Yeah. And I don't tend to know exactly how they evaluate, but that's a breakdown they gave for me is they look at the vegetation,
If there's skunk cabbage, you got it.
which
You're in wetland, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Like on the way to town. Huh?
so there's two parts they look at to determine if it's a wetland and is it a wetland year round or is it a wetland like only in the winter? Basically, is it just a low spot that collects all the water?
So in other words, West Tech will hire the county,
The
I
county,
guess, has retained somebody that will do that. So are we applying for a permit that's gonna cost us for them to go get this expert to come in, or does anybody know how that works?
West Tech will first do the ground, research on it. Then they will go to the county to see what their results, to see what the county requires. Sometimes the county will add more on, or they'll say, no, here's your waiver, you don't have to go anything, but we're not gonna know that until they start the work. That's why it's all a preliminary design report.
Okay,
Is it public works or community development?
community development.
It's zoning, not engineering. Okay.
Yeah, it'll go to Sarah's office.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the same thing we do up here. It's the same on every project we've done. Trying to see what was on the penny. It was $190,000.
It's
yeah,
the next page.
Second to the last. Under fee schedule,
Yeah,
very bottom.
yeah, not to exceed 190,000. So that's really what you need to approve it for, is not to exceed the 190,000.
well, and then there was a potential discount, wasn't there?
Yeah, that's
14,000 or whatever.
if it's not wetlands.
Yeah.
If it's determined not wetlands, then it'll be 14,000 less than that. But still, it'd be with, under their not to exceed amount.
Well, I'm in favor of going forward.
Okay, all in favor of approving
Aye.
this
Oh,
proposal?
sorry.
Say aye.
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 And the next page, we already I think, talked about, I think the board understands about the design control panel. It's now gonna go to the automation group to finish it. The HVAC system is, I don't know if some of you have noticed, it's kind of cold in here. We can't get the building over 66 or 67 degrees. I was
Chief, I buy you guys some coats.
yeah, and some, well,
Which I
some
have
space
made
heaters when I give you this
the
information.
ladies, particularly Erin, very uncomfortable when I said, oh, you're wearing a coat again. But now I come to find out that I'm wrong and she's right. And it's the system that is not performing properly.
And I went through that quote.
So I admit,
I went through the quote that we provided from NCC. Is there anybody else we could get a second bid from? That seems pretty.
So what you have in front of you is only half.
Okay, the 62,000 is half.
The outside unit is too small, like 2 ton, is what they're saying. So,
The one that was installed is too small for the building that was built.
so
Is there anybody we could get a second?
I
bid
asked,
from?
I asked this contractor, how can that, this same contractor city and Tillamook uses for their HVAC stuff. He said, when this place was designed, when they do the environmental for the high temp, low temp to figure out what is needed. He said the climate's changed. So that research no longer applies. We get colder winters, warmer summers. He said, but it still probably should have been two ton bigger unit. So it's another it's a total of over $130,000. I've changed the outside unit and the controllers. I was shocked that the controllers were $62,000. I was figuring from what I've called around other places, with the AR unit that we have was going to be around 40. So it really doesn't matter if it's 60 or 100. You get a $14,000 discount if you bundle it all together, do it all at once, 120,000. That exceeds what we're allowed. We have to now go to bid. So we're going to have to go out and we're going to have to get other contractor estimates.
Okay, so there's no approval needed on that particular item tonight. Okay.
So
And this,
the other information I just got yesterday, but it was lower priority to
That's
me.
fine. I wasn't prepared to approve that.
But I wanted the board to know that we're working on it. There is an issue with it. There has been for a while. It's just, it took me a while. You were supposed to get the information last month, but I didn't get the information in. So, and then I needed the whole, because I asked, it's 62,000. That includes the outside unit. Then it didn't sound too bad. And he said, no, that's another 70,000. Yeah.
Sweet. Limited own business.
so this is for the lawyers. 30 days. Like, warranty. Right?
On labor,
Yeah. So
on
when
their,
it comes to industrial, my understanding is you don't get the same the warranties per se, but you get manufacturer warranties. But what you're looking at is their warranty for their one, not for the equipment.
Okay.
Yeah, so the equipment, I understand, is some of it's 5 years. Controllers don't carry that much of a warranty on them. The
Okay.
outside unit does.
Because they go
But-
obsolete within 2.
But you can't even approve it anyway, because it goes beyond our ability. It's over 50,000. So we have to, by state, we have to go out to bid for this. So the auditor requires 3 estimates. So I'll try to find 2 more companies that do this to get 2 more estimates.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah.
So we do need to do an approval for the manual transfer switch.
Yeah, so the manual transfer switch you have, this is the final payment for the contract. This will end it completely. West Tech vetted it, and I vetted it, went through, verified that everything was done and completed. So I just need approval from the board to authorize payment.
Who's authorized the payment
I'll second it.
with relief that it's the last one.
any further discussion? If there's none, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Okay. Number 6, low voltage Northwest has switched over and we're now looking them for our security and alarm system. They're still setting everything up, but we are switched over to that. So we hired a new worker to start December 2nd. He never showed. Never called, never showed up after he accepted the position.
Seems to be a thing these days.
It's really, we were shocked because he interviewed really well. He brought a lot of other skills to the table that would have been useful for the district. He accepted the job and negotiated a little bit of his wages. I gave him what he wanted on that. It wasn't unreasonable. Aaron gave him the paperwork to go in for the UA. And we find out a week or 2 later, but he never showed up for it. Made a phone call, seeing if there was an emergency or excuse. I didn't think there would be, but he's not returning any of the calls. And this is the guy that's been bugging me for 6 months for a job. And he accepts it and he doesn't show up.
Or the UA.
He never showed up to even take it.
And
Well,
no,
that's then.
Well, so anyway, we interviewed, Tuesday, we interviewed another person. We're just gonna have to go out and reopen. We're gonna have to open the job.
oh, I'm sorry that happened.
Well.
You're retired. Can you want to come out of retirement for a while?
His application resume read a lot better I got a funny feeling that he Googled a lot of his experience that he wrote down because he couldn't answer any of it.
Mhm.
So it was kind of a red flag to us that he didn't even know the basics of what he even wrote down. So we're not real simple. So we're done. There's no other applications. I see that it's worth interviewing. So we'll just go out and send it out. I don't know if it has to do with wages are too low. I don't know, but we're just not getting any applications anyway.
Preferred
Working
worker,
at you guys.
be a flag preferred worker to make sure they know that we're still
Yeah.
in the market if they happen to get somebody.
Yeah. And they don't have anybody right now either.
No,
Which
just
kind of shocked me that
if they'd heard retired, then they would quit.
when I started the program, it was like you had to hurry and get someplace because they were filling, they were putting people everywhere. Now there's nothing anywhere. So there is some good news here the board might like. I told you we challenged DEQ on cutting our permit by the amount they were gonna cut it. I got a call today. We sent him in a letter. I had Chris at West Tech and we wrote up a letter. Sent him in challenging all those points. It put us back on a low permit level. They decreased requirements.
Okay,
I didn't know how to even explain this. They decreased requirements instead of doing lab once a week like we do it now and have to report to the NPDS commit. They raised it to 2 labs a week, which is an increased cost to us for lab. Now they decrease it to 1 lab a month. They cut our reporting down by 2/3.
Take it.
Oh, yeah. The only thing that they're pushing that I don't agree with, and we're gonna push back on it, is they want us to do another outfall study for mixed zone. We just did one in 2016. She can't find it. And the outfall hadn't changed. So we're still gonna try to challenge that. But everything else that they dropped
We have
off.
it.
Can we just
Yeah,
resubmit
we
our
have it.
2016?
I actually sent it to her.
Okay,
But don't we have a schedule to do it?
No. Mixed zone studies are when you, for your initial installation of your outfall, and usually the outfall doesn't change.
So
The only
this is
one,
different than just the inspection of the pipe.
right, this is not an inspection, this is a
Okay.
mixed zone study for whatever you discharge. So we had to do a second mixed zone study after we stopped using chlorine. So if you had a chemical, there's a mixed zone study, and then of course that's the environmental with whales and all that kind of stuff. The reason I don't agree with this one is they listed our outfall in a shell fishery. It's not in a shell fishery. And it is not 2,000 feet out, it is 4,000 feet out. So I gave her that information today and said, if you need anything else, we will get you the documents if you need more, but you should already have it all. So she's gonna look into that. But at worst case scenario, what we're looking at is a separate mixed zone study, an updated mixed zone study. I've never heard of one, but that's what you say. Pacific Ocean hasn't changed, the outfall hasn't changed. So those are usually around $20,000. That's if they force us to do it. It'll be within the permit. They did drop off, I did make a request to not have to spend the money to inspect the outfall every other year. She said, what would you like to see? I said, once every 5 years, once per permit cycle. They agreed to it. So I just don't know how far I can push that off.
that's a good savings right there.
It
So,
is. It
Dan,
is.
with all the things we've approved and things like that, I'm just curious, how's cash carry over looking for budget cycle? Are we good?
We're good right now. It's too early to really project that. But I think the cash carry forward should be somewhere around the $250,000 range. unless some of these control panels come up to bite us before we get to the next budget year.
Do you do, we do the cash carryover report in March
No,
to the,
well, yes and no. We take where we're actually at that time. And then I sit down with Aaron and JC, and then we project how much we're gonna spend and how much will be cash carry forward after that. So. But as it stands right now, we're still sitting pretty good, but we are facing some pretty heavy expenses if we have any major failures of these control panels. Well, especially with no parts out there. I can't expect TAG to come pull out Robin out every time. So that's pretty much all I have. You saw the Cummings. I don't need you to approve it. I just want you to know what's going on on that check. I'll let you know about that radiator, which can affect our cash carry forward because that can't come out of SDC. We do have over $500,000 in capital resource. So, I mean, there's enough to cover it, but that can deplete our available cash before the end of the year. And did you guys look at the flow chart?
yeah, those big,
Storm.
There's a lot of rain.
700,000 gallons we got here.
it all went through my roof on its way here.
Yeah.
Are you done?
Yes, I'm done.
All right, so we have old business. We've discussed the Avalon pump station, the Oceanside pump station upgrade, and I just as soon defer workshop planning to discuss next month after the holidays.
Very good.
New business, I don't believe we have any. Just one thing, if each of you, if you can find somebody for the budget committee, as far as somebody from the community to add, that would be good.
And when does it start?
About March,
Okay.
so around March, I think.
Yeah,
Late February, early March.
we start the gathering in March and
Yeah.
Aaron and I will start preparing budget documents for your review. And I think we have 2 budget meetings.
Yeah.
With the budget committee. So that'll take us all the way into April.
And then one of the most important things is the 2025 calendar, which I'm sure everybody has looked at. Executive session, none. Adjournment, we're adjourned. It's now 6:53.
All in favor, aye.
We don't have to vote in favor of it. Thank God. It's always in order.
Yeah.